So, the nation's top law enforcement officer was asked to explain why the Department of Justice hired a man who was caught on police body camera footage using violent language toward officers during January 6th. And her defense was that the president pardoned him, which, in the world we now inhabit, apparently doubles as a job reference. The woman who posted just 6 days ago that, quote, "If you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you," end quote, is now employing a man who came for law enforcement with his vocal cords in both fists. So this happened at a House Judiciary Committee hearing on February 11th, where Attorney General Pam Bondi was testifying before Congress, and Congressman Joe Neguse of Colorado decided he was going to do something that apparently no one else in government has been willing to do. Show the receipts. Neguse played body cam footage from January 6th, asked her point blank about the DOJ's hiring practices, and then turned to the quiet gutting of 2 critical DOJ divisions, including one created in the aftermath of Watergate. And her reaction to basic oversight questions was, I would say, revealing. Again, let's watch this hearing, and I will give you my take later at the end.
Quote, "If you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you," end quote. I want to show you just a brief video. It's about 30 seconds, and I'll ask you a couple questions about it.
You guys are disgusting, man. Hey, you guys are disgusting. I'm former law enforcement. You're disgusting. You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. You can't see it because you're chasing your pension, right? Your pension, your retirement, right? That's what runs your life, your retirement. The sad thing is they're not even going to get their pension because it's going to be worthless. And shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Yeah. Fuck that. Yeah.
Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now, right?
Who was that, Congressman?
The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling, "Kill him," at police officers on January 6th, his name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, "Kill him," at police officers? Right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, "Kill him," at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But in any event, let's talk a little bit about some of the other divisions within the Department of Justice and what's happened over the last year. You're familiar with the Public Integrity section of the DOJ's Criminal Division. I think it's referred to as PIN. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created?
I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Attorney General, the time belongs to the gentleman from Colorado.
The president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the Criminal Division today?
Can I answer the question about PIN?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the
people
answer.
work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer PIN.
You,
He will not be
you know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's
Madam
funny
Attorney
about
General,
this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about
Mr. Chairman,
this?
you know what the answer is? And I think I
What's
understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question. Because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
In any event,
who
I would just-
murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by
I've
the
been
witness?
very generous with allowing extra time when we have these little disputes.
I understand.
You got the time, Mr. Neguse.
I might as well ask the chairman these questions.
I'd be happy
because
to
what
answer some of your questions.
what's profound, the questions I've
Profound?
asked,
The crime in
questions
your
I've
district.
asked, Mr. Chairman, are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're actually basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions and the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. When a member of Congress asks how many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and the Attorney General refuses to answer it, it is not a coincidence. It's because she eliminated the team. Why? Because her boss, the President of the United States, is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the course of the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. I think what is happening at the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Yeah. I would ask the gentleman, does he agree with the standing up of the Deputy Attorney General for dealing with fraud? That's something that's happened in this administration. First time. You talked about Penn. That happened with this Justice Department.
We're talking about this committee.
Mr. Chairman, had you answered the question, had the Attorney General answered the question in that way, perhaps this hearing would have some modicum of resembling something that has typically been fairly conventional, an oversight hearing of the Department of Justice.
The gentleman's
That is
time
not
has expired. The gentlelady from Wyoming.
All right. What you've just watched was the Attorney General of the United States refusing to condemn a man on video directing violent language at police officers and then dodging basic questions about why she gutted the divisions that exist to hold powerful people accountable. But here's what you might not know. Jared Wise isn't just some random guy who showed up at the Capitol on January 6th. According to NPR's extensive investigation, Wise was a former FBI agent who served in the Bureau for 13 years, working counterterrorism cases and eventually becoming a supervisory special agent, basically a senior manager running cases. He left the FBI in 2017 and, according to the New Republic, went on to work for Project Veritas, the right-wing outfit that ran undercover operations targeting teachers' unions and Democratic campaigns. On January 6th, he entered the Capitol through a door that others had forced open, spent roughly 9 minutes inside, then exited through a broken window. He then spent hours on Capitol grounds berating officers, calling them derogatory names, and as you saw, shouting those words at rioters. He was charged with 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors. His trial was actually underway when Trump swept in with his mass pardon in January 2025, and the case was dismissed before a verdict could be reached. And where did the Department of Justice place this individual? According to ABC News, Wise was hired as a senior advisor and counselor to Ed Martin, who runs the DOJ's so-called Weaponization Working Group, the unit tasked with investigating alleged overreach in, wait for it, the January 6th prosecutions. So, just to be clear, a man who participated in January 6th, who was criminally charged for his actions on January 6th, is now investigating whether the people who prosecuted January 6th defendants were too aggressive. I genuinely could not make this up if I tried. And when asked about it, the DOJ didn't distance itself. A DOJ spokesperson told NPR, on the record, that Wise is, quote, a valued member of the Justice Department, end quote. Meanwhile, the former head of the DOJ's Capitol Siege Section, Greg Rosen, who personally oversaw Wise's prosecution, told NPR that someone with Wise's law enforcement background, quote, should know better, end quote. Rosen was subsequently demoted for his work, prosecuting January 6th cases, and ultimately resigned. Now here's the contradiction that should make you furious. Just 6 days before this hearing, she posted on social media, and Neguse referenced this, that, quote, if you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you, end quote. That was in reference to a man in Minneapolis charged with threatening ICE agents online. But when it comes to a man on video directing violent language at a crowd to attack police officers, not on social media, not hypothetically, but on camera, during an actual confrontation with law enforcement, the response isn't outrage, it's a job offer. NPR found that she herself has previously said that the Trump administration will, quote, never tolerate any attacks on our police officers, end quote. Unless, apparently, those attacks come from someone loyal to the president, in which case, welcome aboard. And then there's what Neguse exposed about the gutting of the DOJ itself. The Public Integrity Section, which people inside the DOJ call PIN, was created in 1976 after Watergate, specifically to prosecute corruption by government officials. According to a detailed investigation by the outlet Notice, that section has been slashed from 36 career lawyers to just 2. 2 lawyers to oversee corruption cases across the entire federal government. A former prosecutor from the section, Michael Romano, told Notice that with a team that small, the rules that are supposed to stop prosecutors from going after people for political reasons, quote, become nominal, end quote. His word, not mine. What he means is, they exist on paper so the government can check the box and say they followed the rules. But nobody's actually checking anything. And an NBC News report found that the DOJ also suspended the section's authority to review potential cases against public officials, the very safeguard designed to prevent going after people for political reasons. A former senior FBI official told CNN the quiet part out loud, quote, if you're a prosecutor or an agent and someone brings you a public corruption case, you'd be crazy to even consider taking any action. Maybe that's the point of all this, end quote. And the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team? According to CNBC, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who by the way was Trump's personal criminal defense attorney before joining DOJ, issued a memo on April 7th, 2025, shutting down the unit, quote, effective immediately, end quote. The team had been responsible for major cases, including the $4.3 billion Binance settlement. It's gone. And here's why that matters, and why she treated the question like it was radioactive. According to a November 2025 report from the House Judiciary Committee, Democrats, the Trump family has earned over $800 million in income from crypto asset sales in the first half of 2025 alone, with holdings worth as much as $11.6 billion. A Wall Street Journal analysis found the Trumps have cashed out at least $1.2 billion from World Liberty Financial. The president's family launched multiple cryptocurrency ventures, including joke cryptocurrencies called meme coins, a digital currency pegged to the dollar, a crypto lending platform, and a Bitcoin mining operation, all while dismantling the people whose job it was to police that exact industry. Former White House ethics lawyer Richard Painter had a simple way of putting it. He told the Financial Times this is, quote, unprecedented in modern U.S. history, end quote. So when Neguse asked how many people work at the crypto enforcement team and she refused to answer, she wasn't being evasive because it was a trick question. She was being evasive because the answer is 0, and explaining why it's 0 leads directly to one of the most significant conflicts of interest in modern presidential history. So what does this actually mean for you? It means that the division of the DOJ that existed to make sure your governor, your senator, your mayor couldn't take a bribe and get away with it now has fewer lawyers than your local personal injury firm. It's like your bank eliminating its fraud department and then telling you your money is safe. Trust us. According to legal experts at the Brennan Center, the Public Integrity Section has been stripped of its authority to file new cases entirely. The rule that's supposed to prevent Congress members from being targeted for political reasons? Suspended. The FBI's elite public corruption squad? Dismantled, according to the New York Times. The independent watchdogs, whose entire job is to catch waste, fraud, and abuse inside government agencies, fired across more than a dozen of them. Every guardrail that existed to prevent corruption at the highest levels of government has been systematically removed. And on the institutional level, think about what this signals. A federal magistrate judge in Washington, who noted she had approved over 1,000 search warrants without ever rejecting one, recently wrote that, quote, trust that had been earned over generations has been lost in weeks, end quote. She added that, quote, blind deference to the government, end quote, is, quote, no longer a thing, end quote. That's a sitting judge saying she can no longer trust the Department of Justice to act in good faith. When your own judiciary is questioning whether prosecutors are operating ethically, that's not a policy disagreement. That's institutional crisis. And for what? So that a man who shouted those words at police can investigate the people who prosecuted him? So that the president's billion-dollar crypto empire can operate without a single federal enforcement attorney looking over its shoulder? So that the unit created after the worst corruption scandal in American history can be quietly hollowed out while the Attorney General calls basic oversight questions tricks? This isn't law and order. This is the opposite of law and order. It's a system designed to make sure no one gets caught, built in broad daylight, by the people who promised you they'd back the blue. David Loffman, a former senior DOJ official who served in both Republican and Democratic administrations, questioned the gutting of Penn publicly when it first happened. And former public integrity prosecutor Andrew Tessman, who recently left the DOJ, told Notice something that I think sums this whole thing up perfectly. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, "To him, this just screams that public corruption cases are no longer a priority." Which, when you think about it, is a remarkably polite way of describing what is essentially the government giving itself permission to be corrupt. Here's where things stand right now. Jared Wise still works at the DOJ. The public integrity section is down to 2 lawyers. The crypto enforcement team no longer exists. And the Attorney General of the United States, when confronted with all of this under oath, responded by attacking the congressman's district and calling basic questions tricks. This isn't about one hire, and it isn't about one hearing. This is about whether the Department of Justice exists to enforce the law or to serve the president. Because right now, the person they hired to work on weaponization is someone who was directing violent rhetoric against police on January 6th. The unit that fights corruption has been gutted while corruption flourishes, and the team that investigated crypto crime was eliminated while the president builds a crypto empire. The question isn't whether they're being subtle about it. The question is whether it matters that they're not. Because, to borrow from her own logic, if you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you. Unless you came for law enforcement on January 6th. In which case, they'll come for you with a job application. Don't eat the gas station sushi, folks. If you found this helpful, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Share it with anyone who should be part of this conversation. Click the bell icon so you don't miss future updates. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. Bye.